This episode of the Young and Pruitt podcast is brought to you by Carpy's Custom Screen Printing. If you need labels, t-shirts, banners, race car graphics, window stickers, and anything else in between, give our buddies over at Carpy's a call. Or you can email them at sales@carpys.com. You can also find them on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, hit them up at Carpys_CO. Or Instagram, it's at Carpys. And you can also look them up on their website, www.carpys.com. Give them a holler, tell them what you need, and they'll come up with a perfect product for you.
And as soon as you are done shopping with Carpys, be sure to head over to youngandpruitt.com. Every single episode of this podcast is on that website. Episodes like Bobby Allison, Joey Knuckles, or Spencer Davis. Be sure to check out Layla's blog. Be sure to sign up to the fan forum and to begin a discussion. And no matter how you're listening to this, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. And last but not least, don't forget to write us a sweet review. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Young and Pruitt and the Young and Pruitt podcast on YouTube. On this episode of the podcast, we are joined by a very fun guest, Greg Fornelli, and his manager guy, Chase Forbes. They step in. He is the owner of SRI and Stock Car Steel, and he has a pretty crazy story. So pull those belts tight for me one more time and enjoy.
What made you guys do this?
Boredom. I saw a need. No one else is doing what we're doing.
Yeah, right. It's great.
So just like when you started your business,
Yeah.
it says here that you were, diagnosed with jaw cancer?
Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people know that
Save
story,
that
but
for
it feels
recording.
like a lot of people know that
Oh,
story.
we're going right now.
Oh,
so,
we're going.
Yeah, we're
All
going.
right.
Oh,
so just
hell.
go ahead and
The
go ahead and go.
podcast is potting.
We are potting.
Nobody said action, so
Yeah.
Action.
So,
Perfect.
Is our first question, how did I get started?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll back up and we'll start.
No, that's all right, yeah.
We have two guests today on the show. We have Greg Fornelli. He is the owner of Stock Car Steel and all of the SRI line of businesses. And then we have his marketing person, Chase Forbes, with us. Thank you guys for coming out. And
Literally
to be
our
here.
pleasure. Yeah, man.
So, we were just back to what we were just talking about. It says that you were a rare form of jaw cancer.
Yeah. So let me just say, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's funny. We just had this social media marketing meeting with my marketing team, and I'll forward you guys this video because you think that was worth watching. It was a
absolutely.
really cool video that I stumbled upon about social media marketing, and it talked about all the biggies, right? Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff.
Was it a Jimmy V thing?
No, but it talks about you, and I love. He's
Okay.
the man, right?
Okay.
He's the man. But it was this other, it's a company that is trying to get your business, of course. But it was a really, really I can't believe I even clicked on it because usually you get these crappy emails that just are it was just a random email. And I actually clicked on it, and it wasn't, a scam. It didn't put me in, someone's not asking me for my, some Ukrainian or something. But it was a really helpful video, and I watched it. I told Chase I ended up watching 5 times, and I'm like, we have to have a meeting, so we had this meeting. But anyway, other than all the biggies, one of the things that they pushed were at the, once you get a little more established in the world and social media, podcasts are great, but it said, at first, starting your own podcast could be a little daunting and hard, but, what he recommended is you try to become guests on other people's podcasts.
Hey.
Yeah, so...
I just happen to know a guy.
Yeah, and then he asked me, he's like, hey, you want to be on this podcast? I'm like, oh, man, I got time. Oh, yeah. And then I'm like, wait, I can't tell him no. I just told him to find us guest spots on podcasts. So
Trying.
yeah, so here we are. So good job, Chase. But, so here we are. So I'm excited. So back to how we started the business. It's a very, very long story, but I'll try to make it as short as I can.
No.
All right. Well, and
details.
It seems like it's an old story because it is so long ago. But there's a lot of people that know me now that didn't know me back then. A lot of people, who've been in the business for a long time know my story. But So I was just a young rowdy like the rest of us, and rest of you guys. I'm not a young rowdy anymore. I'm an old rowdy. But I was living in Kansas City. I was born and raised in Kansas City. I went to KU, Jayhawks, Rock Chalk, and worked at a bar for 5 years there. So I knew that my future was I was going to own a bar. No matter what I did in my life, I was going to own a bar. That was my ultimate. That was what I wanted to do. And then got out of school and graduated. It was time to get a job. And, so I got my first job I ever got was working as the manager of the Hyatt Regency in Kansas City, their lobby bar restaurant. And, starting at the bottom, I was the breakfast manager, the breakfast shift manager. And so, I think we opened at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, at this time, I'm 22 years old, and I was very, very used to staying up till 5 in the morning. I was not used to getting up and going to work at 5 in the morning. It sucked. I mean, I spent most of the time with my door shut, locked, sleeping at my desk, or just coming straight from the party, straight to work, and I didn't last long there. It was not a very good fit for me. So I quit that job, or probably got fired. I don't remember. But then I said, so my father, God rest his soul, he's been gone for 20-some years, but he worked manual labor, sweeping floors on up to, he was like a foreman at the end, but he worked at a steel mill. It was a big old steel mill called Armco Steel in Kansas City. And so that was his career path. He was he was uneducated, just a hard-working man and just a big, strong football player. He was a badass. But so he knew the steel industry. So, he was like, get off your ass, Greg, and get a real job, mess around with bars. So I went and started selling steel. So I went to a steel company, got a job selling steel called Ryerson Steel. It's a ginormous steel company. It's nationwide, 150 years old. And so started selling steel and kind of liked it, but, it was all right. And anyway, they offered through their further education, they would pay for 80% of your school if you went to school. So I went to night school and got my master's. Nice. And I got an MBA in business. And for my thesis, I wrote a thesis on opening a brew pub. So brew pubs were just hot back then, right? This is 30 years ago. And so I wanted to open a brew pub, right? So that was my whole thing. And then got my master's degree. And once I got my master's degree, I started to get some job offers, and about the same time I got married too. And so things happen in life, right? So you kind of you start making a living, you forget about what you want to do and with your goals and all that stuff. So I took a job working for a small steel company in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I was literally born and raised and didn't. I think I moved like 3 times maybe my whole life, and they were all within the same zip code. My best friends were still my kindergarten best friends, all the way through college. I was a homie, and I was a homeboy. I had all my home friends, and, I was a big local guy, and to move to Charlotte was a huge thing for me, and I was like, oh, man. But it seemed like the right thing to do. I really liked this company, and it was a small company. They were looking for somebody to come in and manage it and eventually get some ownership. And so anyway, I moved to Charlotte. And again, I don't want to get too boring and technical, but we sold one product, which was alloy round bars. Mm-hmm. And most of them, machine shops that go on a lathe and you turn them down and make parts. And so that's what I sold. They'd never had an outside guy before, so the world was kind of my oyster. So I had North and South Carolina and kind of do whatever I wanted. And so, I just started selling, and it was awesome. A lot of machine shops and, a lot of textile companies and paper and pulp mills and stuff like that. So it went well, started gaining sales and did really good out there, and I loved it. And it was funny back then, I would, drive with one hand, have a giant map in the other hand with, little highlights all over the map, and whoa, and, now, of course, everything's on my phone, but I drove a purple Taurus. I remember that. And it was big news when I got the first car phone, a little click phone that goes in there. And I still use the pay phones because I didn't trust those car phones. So anyway, so one day I'm driving down Highway 49, and I see Charlotte Motor Speedway. And, and I'm a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, huge football fan, stick and ball guy. I'm a big sports fan, love basketball, football, baseball. And I saw Charlotte Motor Speedway, what the hell is that? Whoa. It was this giant, stadium. So I pull in there and I kind of fart around and went to the gift shop, and there's that, 80-year-old man that used to drive you around in a van. And so I went and got on the track and drove around. And I was just freaking out like this is the coolest thing ever. And then leaving there, I started farting around town, kind of just looking around, and I stumbled upon Hendrick Motorsports. So I went over there, and they had it this time, this was again 26 years ago or something, so it wasn't what it was today, but it was still a badass race team. And they had, a viewing area with glass windows in the fab shop. And so I'm looking at them like, oh shit, they use steel, right? Wow, crazy. Okay. So it took me a few weeks, and I finally, got in to Hendrick Motorsports and said, and met a guy named Gary Poling. His name's Sarge. He just retired recently, but he's like, yeah, we buy a little alloy round bar, and it's not always easy for us to buy, but yeah, sure, we'll quote you. And so I just kept pestering him, and finally started selling him some bars, some stock, and developed a relationship with him. And am I talking too much?
No,
all right,
no.
So
give it all.
So he eventually said, dude, what you need to do is stock tubing and sheet metal. That's what we buy a lot of. Bar stock's all right, but we build those cars out of tubing. So I'm like, all right. So I, went back to my boss. I said, hey, I'd like to start this maybe. Because then he started introducing other people, and so we started selling to race teams. So, but just bar stock. So I convinced my boss into, making a, race car division of our company. And so I brought on those tubing and all this sheet metal. And so I started gaining market share right and left. I started getting customers. But, we were a busy alloy round bar distributor. We were a busy company already, and we had our trucks and our our schedules, and let's face it, race teams are a pain in the ass, right? They are they don't schedule. Even today, they got purchasing professionals. They still don't. It's hard. Race team is an OEM. They are a manufacturer. They're building race cars on a regular basis, but they still don't have good forecasts because you just never know, right? Rule changes.
You don't know that you're going to crash.
Right, exactly right. Crashes, rule changes. Sponsors come, sponsors go. We're going to add a driver. We're going to drop it. Whatever, right? Things change, so they can't say we're going to build 40 cars. Here's what we need: 40 cars every month. You deliver this much deal. So, they are a just-in-time type customer. They are a JIT customer, and no one was taking care of these guys. So I got market share quick because I started taking care of them. But my boss is like, listen, dude, this ain't working. The truck drivers were bitching. They'd have to throw on 40 foot of tube to drive to Hendrick Motorsports, or at that time, let's just say some small Xfinity team or it was Busch team, and who doesn't pay their bills very well anyway. And we're dropping all we're doing for one of our giant machine shops to deliver this 40 foot of tube, $18 order. And my boss is going, what are we doing here? Right? This is crazy. So my boss is like, listen, this ain't working, bud. We're gonna stop this. And I'm like, all right, I get it, whatever. But I'm still very entrepreneurial. So, I need to go back a little bit, kind of jump around. But when I was a kid, my family had no money. Like I said, we were very low middle income family. But I loved stuff, right? I mean, I loved partying and I loved having shit. And so I always hustled. I was always working. No matter what, I was working. I worked all the time. Whether shoveling snow or raking leaves or or delivering papers, I always hustled and worked. So that was something that I liked stuff and I didn't have any money. So, I always wanted to open my own business. I thought it'd be a bar, but when he said it's not working, I'm like, all right, yeah, it's not working. I get it. But I thought to myself, maybe if that's all I did, it might work, right? Mm-hmm. But then my wife was pregnant, and just stuff happens, right? Life happens, and then this world came crashing down. My face got numb right here in my lower lip. My lower left lip got numb, and so I went to a doctor. I said, hey, my face is numb, and my doctor said, oh, we'll take Advil. It'll probably go away. And I said, okay, cool. And then I was very, very healthy. I was a lot skinnier than my fat ass now. But
did you?
No shit, nothing. No, nothing. No smoking. I mean, I did everything, but not anything that caused it. So he said, just take Advil, she'll get away. So I didn't even think about it, right? And then I don't know, maybe 6 months later, I went back to him and I said, hey, my face is still numb. And he's like, all right, well, we'll get you to an ear, nose, and throat guy and take a look at it. So this guy, I go see him, and he's like, oh, I don't know what it could be. It could be a lot of stuff. Let's do an MRI of your brain and check it out. So they do an MRI of my brain, and nothing comes back. And he said, Greg, I don't see anything wrong. I just wouldn't worry about it. It's just probably just go away. I'm like, all right, cool. At that time, you're like, yeah, great. Love to hear that. Let's go away. Let's go on. So, and then a few months after that, I was at my dentist, and I said, hey, my face has been numb for about 8 months, right here. And he's like, oh, well, let's do a panoramic x-ray. So he does an x-ray of my jaw and finds this giant tumor in my jawbone, my lower left jawbone. And he's like, it's probably a cyst. We see it all the time, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they do a biopsy, and it came back as this, shitty form of cancer. It's called mesenchymal chondrosarcoma. There's like 40 cases of adult males in their head and neck. It typically always hits adolescent children in their femurs. So it's a femur-type bone cancer. again, very, very rare, that it hits somebody like, I was 30 years old and hit me in my jawbone. So, and again, it was not a lifestyle cancer whatsoever. So it's not at all anything you've done in your life. It's just a genetic fuck up, right? It's just a genetic, I hit the wrong lottery. So, so yeah, they gave me a 17% chance of living. Well, I Googled all this shit. My doctor's going, stop Googling that stuff, right? It's
Dr.
a whole,
Google.
yeah, not a good thing. So anyway, huge surgery. They cut my jawbone out. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. So that's my fibula from here to here. You can't with all my scraggly hair, but the scar runs from here to here. And then they took my fibula out of my leg, made a jawbone out of it. And, I was in the hospital for a couple months in Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City.
Okay, so he just showed us that the bottom row of the left side of his teeth are basically gone.
Yeah.
And that's his leg bone. If you wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, right? You can't tell. So I had this amazing plastic surgery. This guy was the man. Little bitty Jewish dude, his tiny little hands, and just cocky as fuck. I mean, this was the man.
That's exactly who I want.
In New York City, right? Dude?
That's the guy.
Right? I mean, he was. He's like, I'm the best.
I'm fucking out of here.
The best. I'm like, yeah, baby. And he was awesome, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and when I got done with the surgery, like my head went from from my eyebrow to the tip of my shoulder. Like it just went like
Peeled back.
It was just well, no. I mean, it was just swollen. It was just my whole face was deformed. I mean, they peeled me back. They sewed my eyelids shut and peeled my face up, so your eyes don't get So I was all fucked up, and I had a tracheotomy. I had had a feeding tube. I had to eat out a feeding tube for 3 weeks. It was hell. It was just, and I had a 1 month old baby. 1 month old baby girl.
Oh, poor wife.
Yeah, I mean, right, dude? So it was just insane. It was insanity. It was crazy. But what came out of all that is I'm not fucking going back to work. Like I'm starting my own business. And I'm starting Stock Car Steel. So during my chemo, I did 9 months of chemo. I was in New York City at this whole thing, and I stayed up there for about 2.5 months, and then it was time to do chemo. And it was like the doctor said, there's no proof that chemo works. And we don't really have a protocol for you, but, you may want to do it. I said, I just said, like probably most people said, I said, Doc, if I'm your son, what do I do? He said, you do the chemo. I said, well, bring it on, baby, right? I'm like, but I don't feel like staying in New York for a fucking year, right? I mean, it's expensive. My family, it sucked for everybody. So he's like, well, let me see if I can find. And Sloan Kettering is like, this, fancy dancy hospital. They're pretty prestigious. And he's like, well, I don't have any oncologists that are from here that I know of in Charlotte, but I've got one in a place called Concord. And I'm like, bingo, yeah, baby. So my oncologist, who I love, Dr. Steffens, he's pretty much, he's the man. So I came home.
He's getting a Christmas card.
Yeah, that's exactly. He gets Christmas cards. That's right. He gets a calendar.
Okay.
He gets a calendar.
Everything.
That's his Christmas.
He gets invited to the calendar shoot, which is really rare. So anyway, so I came again. I know I'm rambling. But anyway, I came home, started doing my chemo, and while I was doing chemo, I wrote the business plan for Stock Car Steel. So, when I wasn't puking or sleeping or miserable, I was typing up on this little shitty laptop computer I had, and I wrote the business plan for Stock Car Steel. And the one thing of all that whole story, which I know is long and whatever, but the one thing that I do like to tell about that story is. Part of a business plan is you do projections. Like, this is where I'll be in a year, this is where we'll be in 2 years, and 5 years, and 10 years. And I think doing those projections really helped me mentally, saying, this is where I'll be in 5 years on revenues and
stay the
customers.
course.
Yeah, you think, because, rather than thinking I'm going to die, I think, well, here's where I'll be in 5 years. So it was really kind of healthy, I think, for my mental well-being to do that. And so anyway, I wrote this business plan, and part of the business plan was doing market research. So I would call all these customers, and now granted, Hendrick Motorsports, Gary Poling was my man. I mean, we were friends, and he was sending me cards. Hendrick would send me a card in the mail when I'm doing chemo or up in my surgery. And so they paid attention to me, and so I would call these guys and say, listen, if I were to open this company, would you buy from me? And, to every team out there at the time were absolutely, you open, and it doesn't hurt when you say, I've got Hendrick Motorsports as a customer. Would you be a customer? Back then they're like, this is Jeff Gordon days. And, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So anyway, So, I quit my job. I didn't have a hair in my body, not a eyebrow, eyelash, or pubic hair in my body. I was like a clean cut little, child. There's not a hair on this fucking beautiful body. And
Was your hair wavy before?
It was, yeah. It was curly. And so I was like, Mr. Clean, this big doofy bald dude. And
yeah, I say that because both of my parents have had cancer.
Okay.
But my father, he had straight hair. And
yeah.
when it grew back in, it was wavy.
Curly. A lot of people happens. Yeah, man. So I had Hendrick, said, yeah, you open up, you got our business. So I quit my job, and like everybody thought I was nuts. Like my family thought I was crazy. Like, all my friends were like, so you're doing chemo, you're quitting your job, you're opening up a company selling steel to NASCAR. Okay, Greg, yeah, way to go, bud.
Don't forget
You're right. They thought I was just insane. So anyway, I did it. So, I remember I walked into DEI the first time, and Randy Earnhardt and all those boys were sitting back in the trophy room at that time. It was part of the fab shop, and there's, all the dead animals all over. And at the time, I used to wear a suit every day selling steel in my old company. Just the old school steel guys wear suit and ties, right? That's what they do when they make sales calls. So I trug into DEI, and all those boys are sitting around there. All those, they're seriously, serious North Carolinians, and I'm walking there, and I'm like, hey, I'm again not a hair on my body, and I'm like, big doofy 230-pound dude. I'm like, hey, I'm going to sell you guys steel. They're all like going, what the fuck was that? Like, they said that. They said when I left, they're all like, oh my God, what was that?
Looking like the guy from the Six Flags commercials.
Exactly, dude. So anyway, all right. So I know it's been a long story, but that was the start of my career, and it just snowballed. It was like insane how it just, what happened after that was just, it was just a blessing. It was like, I don't know, I can look back at that whole situation and think that it was the best thing that ever happened to me was getting cancer. It just changed my life. Would I have quit my job and started Stock Car Steel if it wasn't for the cancer? Who knows? You got a 1-month-old. I got a secure job that pays me decent money and good benefits. I might have just kept on trudging along in a job I hated.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it was a refocusing.
It was, man. So, rock and rolled with that. My cancer has come back twice since then, so I'm a 3-time survivor now. I just had my 6-year anniversary on my last cancer. It came back to my lungs, so the type of cancer I have, 99.9% of times it comes back as lung cancer. So I've had 2 thoracotomies where they've removed about 40% of my right lung. But, knock on wood, I just keep rocking. I just got done with my little proud moment here. I just got back a week ago today from my last 6-month checkup, and my doctor, it was my almost to the T, my 6-year anniversary from my last bout of cancer. And my doctor said, I'm all clean. And he said, I'll see you in a year. So I'm going from every 6 months. I get to go to every year now to my checkup. So yeah, it's all good. So anyway, that's how the business started.
So now when you started your business, were you getting your steel from the guy that you used to work for?
Oh, no. I mean, if I ever needed alloy round bar, I'd go from him. But we were.
So that's all that they sold.
That's all they sold. That was it. So they started selling tubing and sheet metal when I said, let's start selling to race teams. And then that's why he said, like, this is not our niche. That's not what we do. We don't. And again, people ask me, how can I be in business for 22 years selling, steel to race teams when there's every big steel companies in Charlotte? Like there's all the biggies, all the big service centers. And the reason is because, and I came from the biggest steel company, Ryerson Steel, because most steel service centers like customers who buy a whole lot of a few things. Like I need 20 bars of that, and 100 sheets of this, and whatever. Well, race teams buy a little bit of a ton of different stuff. Mm-hmm. So they're like, I need 40 foot of that, a half a bar of that, 1 sheet of that, 3 sheets of this. I need aluminum, steel, titanium, tungsten. So it's like, chromoly. So it's like they buy a little bit of a ton. Now, over a course of a year, I mean, my Penske's, my Roush's, my Hendricks, my Gibbs, they spend a lot of money with me, but it's a lot of little bitty orders. Mm-hmm. All, so every day they need deliveries, and that's hard on a big steel company. It's just not. It's not in their wheelhouse to deliver, 20 items, 20 line item orders with, a couple of sticks of each thing. So they like a whole bunch of one item that they can go and easy delivery. And so, let's face it, sometimes the accounts receivables aren't real great with race teams. So, so the company Charlotte loved me when I opened. So they wanted my business. So it actually worked out great. So, so there's reasons why I was successful at the time. No one was doing it. I was the first one to kind of think of it, and it just worked out well for me.
So that relationship with Gary essentially was the model that you built off
Yeah,
of.
I mean, it really was. I mean, and then, like I said earlier, if, you walk into any other account and say, well, Hendrick buys everything from me. Everybody's like, oh, really? Oh, well, sit down, sir. Let's talk, So it really helps. So Gary Poling is my hero. He just recently retired, but we're still in touch. And he's the man. He really helped me get started big time.
Now, since then, you've grown into 6 different companies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fast forward,
and
right?
Now you have 6 companies.
Business is about growing, right? When you're a small business, you always want to grow, right? That's kind of the key with what as an entrepreneur, it's what you want to do. You can get comfortable with what you got, but it's I like to, I just want to grow. I'm still young, so. With the steel company, we pretty much got a monopoly. We're selling to all the teams, everything. And so, we worked our butts off, literally, 20-hour days. I mean, I really literally, it was crazy. And then, so we got to where, we had all the business basically that was, around. And then, what do you do next, right? So my thought was, do I find other industries to sell the products I have in stock to, sign companies, machine shops, just other people that use kind of the stock we had. And what's great about what I said earlier is race teams buy a little bit of a ton of different stuff. So I have a ton of different stuff in stock, right? So I'm not like, I just don't have alloy bars. I've got everything in stock. So it kind of opens up a lot of different customers that I could sell to. So that was an option. Or do I find other things to sell to my customer base that I have already that is A, very loyal, and B, the barrier to entry is pretty high. They just, race teams just don't let anybody walk in the door and I'm going to sell you whatever, right? A nut and a bolt or something. So I chose to do the second thing. I chose to, what else can I sell these guys? Because they trust me, they like me, they trust me, they know me. What else can we sell to these guys? So just in that kind of looking around, a company called SRI Supplies, that was already established company. So they were kind of struggling a little bit. It was one guy and his dad and just 3 or 4 employees. They sold, they had a good vendor base. They had 3M was in their back pockets. They did a good job with 3M. But they just did not know how to run their business. So he was really struggling. The guy that owned it was really struggling with running the business, but he was a really good sales guy. And they had, like I said, they had good vendor relationships and good salesmen, but they couldn't keep stock. They're trying to run a distribution business without a bank. I said earlier, my banker called, without a bank, it's tough because you got to have a line of credit because you got to buy inventory, right? It's all about inventory turns. You got money tied up in inventory. You got money tied up in receivables. So for that, if you got all that tied up, you got to have a line of credit to work off of. So
that was my next question: is how you manage those crazy inventory costs.
It's crazy, dude. So and inventory turns are tough. That's what'll crush a distribution business. So anyway, they were struggling. So he came to me and said, "Hey, man, just buy my business and I just want to sell. That's all I want to do is sell. You run the business, I'll just sell." I said, "Okay, great." So I bought. It was called SRI Supplies, and they were industrial supplies basically, and for race teams. So they were adhesives, abrasives, fasteners, cutting tools. So basically just a Granger for racing. Yeah. And so bought that company. That was 17 years ago. So it was 99, maybe I guess it was 18 years ago.
2002, I think.
Sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Chase.
Yeah, historian in the house.
Yeah.
You're in your paycheck.
Yeah, right. I may exaggerate some always, but anyway. So I bought that business and where they had 20% of the market, right? Stock Car Steel pretty much had 100% of the market. So it seemed to me like an easy fit. So bought the business and it thrived. It did really well. So we started getting all that market share. The people that were already buying from us that weren't buying from SRI before started buying from us. That's good. You're breaking into a market where they're buying from someone already. So you're not going to get it immediately, but over time, they trusted us already. So we started, so that company grew like crazy again. The guy who bought it from didn't work out. It just didn't work out. But, so grew that way, right? So that was SRI Supplies. And then, along the years, tried and failed at a bunch of stuff, right? I mean, you talk to any entrepreneur, and if you got that rep, everything he touches turns to gold. Well, that's very, very rare. I tried a lot of shit that did not turn to gold; it turned to shit. So, but he kept trying, right? Because we got to keep growing, and then, and again, I don't want to bore the audience, but the performance parts business. Kind of a brief history. You had Hutchison Pagan and you had BSR were the two monsters, right? They were the two, the competitors. They ran the market. They had everything. And then when things were really thriving in NASCAR, when it was just, early 2000s was just crazy. So a lot of people looked to buy businesses in the NASCAR space because, they had very good cash flow and very good net cash, and so people were private equity groups were itching to buy them. So it started off with a group that came in, and it was called Clark Racing Partners, and a guy named Greg Clark. He did a little racing, but his dad was a gazillionaire up in New York, and he got done racing, and it's like, Dad, I want to buy some NASCAR businesses. So they started this partnership, and they ended up buying BSR. And then during that time, I had a lot of customers saying, your next thing should be performance parts. It's just Hutch and BSR, and there's some issues with them. And then when Clark's bought BSR, there was even more issues. Like, you ought to do it. You ought to buy these guys. You ought to get into performance, or not buy them, get into performance parts. Then I started negotiating a little bit with Ron Hutcherson at Hutchison Pagan, and I was looking to buy that business. And I ended up getting a bidding war with Clark Racing Partners because they had bought BSR. Well, they wanted the competition so they could, have both, so they could, they could own the space. And I got in a bidding war with them, and Daddy Warbucks beat me pretty handily in my bidding war. So, so I lost out to that. So they bought BSR, turned it into BSR Hutch, owned by Clark Racing Partners. And then, Black Monday hit, right? Then the economy took a shit right after they bought it. They way overpaid for it. I mean, if anything, those Butch Stevens and Ron Hudson owe me a pat on the back because I bid that price way up. And then, Black Monday hit and everything went to shit. I mean, remember the morning paper was massive layoffs, Black Monday, all the race teams laid off everybody and kind of rehired. And it was crazy, right? It was what is that, 2008?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was,
my first year.
There,
yeah, missed it by that much.
You're right. So now I still feel like if I would have bought Hutchison Pagan, because my businesses, we were able to just, we just had meetings and said, let's wrap our arms together, guys, and just stop spending money, and everybody's taking a little bit of cut of pay. But I didn't lay off one person during all, and we lost about 30% of our revenues. Things just hit the fan, but we just huddled together and say, we can get through this, right? We can do this. We can just be smart and take care of our customers, and which we did.
To be built.
Yeah, and we made it, right? And I feel like we'd have bought Hutch, it had worked, but I didn't, so whatever. But so then they went out of business. Hutchison Pagan, Hutch BSR went out of business. So then everybody's like, okay, now it's time to get into it, Fornelli. Get in there. I'm like, all right, great. But again, I own 100% of my shit, so it's just me, and I'm conservative, and it's scary. You worry about things. I worry about my two base companies, Stocker Steel and SRI Supplies, are my babies, and my employees are my family, and so you worry about that. So I'm slow. I'm very meticulous, and I study, and I do a lot of due diligence. So as I'm doing all this to get in performance parts, CV Products, Clyde Vickers, he banked with the same bankers as the Clarks, and so they offered Clyde a pretty good deal. To go in there and buy it out of auction, instead of going to an auction. So Clyde went in there and bought it all and started CV Products and started selling performance parts. So I'm like, all right, well, he beat me to it. I'm out, right? So I just stepped back and just kept living my life. Now, at that time, a little bit of sidebar is, I had my ex-wife and I had kind of separated, and we got divorced, and and I had really good managers, and business was doing well and spitting off cash flow, and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And so I had a really fun lifestyle. I didn't work much, and I, had some money, or, it was fun. I mean, it was about that time the calendar started, it was a little bit of a freak show back then. And Chase knows it was. So anyway, but I got bored, right? It kind of gets bored after a while. I had this itch to get back into business. So everybody's like, Greg, get in the performance parts business. And then once Clyde bought it all, I stepped away and backed off. Well, then, Clyde started to struggle a little bit, right? He's a big manufacturer trying to get into distribution business, which is a lot different. And they were struggling, so we kept getting calls again. Hey, you guys ought to get in the performance parts business. Just make SRI Supplies should start selling performance parts. So all right. So I keep looking at it again, and that's when I decided to buy a company called TJ's Motorsports Warehouse, which is over in Denver, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Small little place, very local, grassroots drag racing. It used to be drag. TJ's is Tommy Johnson, so it was a big drag racer. Started off as a drag racing company, kind of mail order, kind of evolved into dirt racing company, distribution guy. And so it was a small, very, small revenues. but it was a dirt racing, local dirt racing, grassroots place. So I bought that with the intentions of, all right, I'm going to start competing against CV. So I'll buy this, slowly start, working in my way into the cup business, working my way into distribution. They had a very good vendor stream over there at TJ's. It was weird. They were so small, but they were on really good vendor deals. So that was my plan. In the middle of that plan, 6 months in, Clyde calls me and says, hey, man, we want out of the distribution business. You should buy my company. I should back up a little bit. Like 6 months before that, I was, approached by Doug Yates about maybe doing something with him, because he kind of, same deal, kind of want to get in it. And I did my due diligence there and decided to pass on that just because I didn't know the product. And Doug was taking all of his guys, Jeff Clark and Todd, those guys, he was taking them to the engine shop. The engine shop just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. So this little, Roush Yates decided to compete against Clyde. So, there was Roush Yates Performance Parts and CV Products. And so I passed on that. Then Clyde called me and said, hey, you should buy this. I'm like, all right. So I looked at it, but back in my mind, I was very worried because I love Doug Yates. Doug is the man, and he's a big fish in our little pond. And, I just done due diligence on his company. So I had all of his info, all of his vendors and customers and margins. And so I'm like, oh my God, if I bought CV, Clyde's going to freak out, right? I mean, because now I'm going to be competing directly against Clyde. With and Clyde and CV, or CV and Roush Yates was kind of like BSR and Hutch. They were mortal, mortal enemies, they were the competition. And so anyway, I know I'm going all over the place, but I bought CV, and I was nervous as hell. Put the press release out, and I get a call from Doug Yates saying, hey man, you mind coming by my office? I'm like, oh shit. So I wake up all night long. I'm thinking, oh my God, I write a list on why I did it. Doug, they offered it to you first and you declined, and you've got Fords, and I'll just stick with GM and Toyota. I won't touch any Ford teams. That's your deal. And blah blah blah. And my wife's like, quit worrying so much. I can't. I stayed up all night. I met him like 8 o'clock the next morning at his office, and I stopped and did like 2 shots of Jack before I went in there because I was so nervous. And I just walked in. He's like, man, Greg, stop, because I'm going through my list of why I did. He's like, just stop, just buy me. Like, we are growing way too fast. I'm not, the distribution business is not in my blood. Just buy me too. And I'm like, well, Doug, I got no more money. And he's like, let's work it out. So Doug Yates, he really, really, really helped me. He was he's like, he was the best thing that could have happened to me in this time. So, and looking back on it now, it's because both of them weren't fools. I said, let's get out of this business and give this shit to Greg and let him do it. So I inherited, within 2 weeks' time, I inherited CV and Roush Yates, and it was, it's a lot. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's a lot of, in the space of a month, I doubled my revenues, doubled my employees, and kind of quadrupled my headaches. So it's, the other thing is, you guys are athletes. Mm-hmm. So, we got these mortal competitors. They competed against each other every day. And within 2 weeks, I said, hey, everybody, you're all going to be you're all the same company now. We're all on the same roof. Come on in. Everybody like each other. And it just didn't flow that way, right? I mean, the CV guys sat in this little corner of the room.
HR headache.
Right. And the Roush Yates guys sat over here. And so it was a lot of work. And, we're 2 years in, and it's going really, really well. So along with that came, so we turned CV and Roush Yates into SRI Performance Parts. We also got the trackside business along with that. So we have SRI trackside. So you'll see our truck at every cup race.
Yeah, that's the hauler that goes to.
Oh, yeah, that one's tough too.
Logistical nightmare.
Oh, my God.
Which is basically, for those that don't know, right out, sometimes in the garage.
We're in the garage now every week.
Yeah, so now it's basically a parts store.
Right.
In the garage.
In an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
That's, all DOT'd up, and it's a lot, man. It's a lot of work.
That's like the materials call to 911.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, shit, I thought we packed that.
Right, exactly.
Run.
Yeah.
Run over there and see our driver.
Now what? You go to the SRI hall.
That's it, man.
And now we have those pit guns that just everybody loves.
Now, Chase, those pit guns are not ours.
No,
all
they
we do
aren't.
is transport them, everyone.
Yeah, we're just
there.
the mules.
It's actually, the Paoli guys, God bless them, they got stuck into a situation quick, and they're doing a great job. I mean, I think the pit guns are going to work themselves out. It'll be just fine. But so
they're having the R&D is right now.
It's right now. It's during race season.
Yeah,
I mean,
race season.
And that's frankly, that's not Paoli's all their fault. That's kind of
Here's the specs. Build this
We
immediately.
won't say it, right? That was one of those things that just kind of happened, right? NASCAR just said, "We're going to do it. We're going to do it now and go." And it's just so we're just working through.
There's been worse things in the sport. I mean,
Absolutely right.
We've had a tire war where tires were popping and killing people.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Well, I mean,
so,
if you're Paoli, you're not going to turn that business down.
No
way.
Hell no.
And literally all they do is pay me rent. I mean, they pay me to transport their guns from one track to another. So it really helped me because that business is a loser. I mean, you just cannot charge enough for a helmet sock to make that worthwhile, right? I mean, we charge a little bit more at the track than we do and everybody says, well, why don't you just charge more? But you can't charge that much more. I mean, there's a breaking point. We're not going to do it. So anyway, we've got SRI. So now we've got Stock Car Steel, SRI Supplies. This is kind of in order. TJ's Motorsports Warehouse, which we rebranded as SRI Dirt and Drag. That's over in Denver, North Carolina. SRI Performance, SRI Trackside, and my new favorite little thing is SRI Indianapolis. So we opened a branch in Indy, which is just awesome. It's going great.
That's on your shirt.
Yeah. So SRI Indy is kind of fun, and that is that's NHRA mostly NHRA, and then a lot of some of the Indy teams, which is not a ton of business, but then
sprint car
sprint and midgets, man, sprint and midgets. I mean, we share a parking lot with Tony Stewart's sprint team, and
perfect.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I'm really excited about Indy.
Yeah, and it's like a combination of all of the above.
Yeah, it is.
And that's the coolest part about it. It's just like, oh man, this is what we possibly could be over here in North Carolina eventually, So
okay, before we start getting into like your logistical questions and stuff like that, there is one question I do want to ask is kind of political. We try to stay away from politics on this show.
Yeah, right.
Is the tariffs going to affect the steel prices at all?
So
boy.
here's kind of my answer to that is tariffs or no tariffs. If you look at the price of steel and you go over 100 years, it is a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And it just happens, right? So, American steel mills are hurt. They've been hurting for a while. They don't, what happened with the steel industry in America is, unfortunately it happened with unions where, they were all union workers. They all had these huge pensions. And, as things got more competitive, these companies couldn't sell the steel. So, they went out of business. So we lost a lot of steel companies during the 80s, 90s. And, we lost a lot of our manufacturing capabilities in America. So, Trump has a good idea. We've got to get strong again, right? We've got to get American steel companies making steel again. And they do okay. There's just, it's consolidated so much that the ones now, have a hard time keeping up with demand. But steel's all about supply and demand. So, prices have gone up. They will gone up. For a distributor, I hate to say this to the world, but as a distributor, price increases are not really a bad thing because, if you can hold your margins, 10% of a dollar is worth more to me than 10% of 50 cents. So if I can still mark my stuff up 10% and sell it to you, I make more money. But the problem is holding your margins because and prices have gone up a lot lately, a lot. So it's tough for an end user to swallow. Well, I've been making these cars, which by the way, sponsorships money's getting tighter, and everything's getting tighter in NASCAR teams. Yes. Oh, now we have to spend 30% more to build our car. So it's just tough. So you don't really hold your margins, right? I do lower my margins, so I am making, but it's hard. They're going to come back down. It's a game right now. I think that Trump's playing.
Yeah.
He's saying, well, we're going to do all these tariffs. They won't. It'll work out in the middle somewhere. And again, it's not like there's never been a price increase on steel. It is.
Yeah,
if you look at history, it goes up and down all the time.
I'm a little young to remember this, but wasn't it the '60s when they had the big steel and all the junk? That's why there's no cars in like the '60s left, because they all went to the junkyards and they all
exactly
got
right.
crushed and melted.
And most of steel, the steel economy works off the aircraft industry and the car industry, right? So, and so it's. If it makes American, most of everything I sell is domestic. We try to sell all domestic material. We stay away from foreign stuff. And so if it can make the American mills stronger, it's a good thing for me. And, and listen, teams care about everything now. Sometimes, I shake my head when I see, what they do at the wind tunnel and what they do on, on motors and on tires. And, and these teams will bust my balls for a nickel a foot on, we've got a nickel a foot price. What are you talking about? Oh my God. So your whole order is up, $9. Like, oh shit, yeah. But that's I get it, man. They don't want their steel to be more expensive. They want to spend that money on, on performance. So I get it. But if it'll make the mills stronger in America, it's probably in the end it'll be a good thing for everybody because the prices will come down.
Yeah. So speaking of like race teams and stuff, the Race Team Alliance, how has that affected you?
Well, so far, it really hasn't. So, the thing about us is, we still have a very strong, I don't want to call anything a monopoly, but we sell, probably, 80 to 90% of the steel to 100% of the teams, right? So, so it's not like, well, if we just, if we all band together, and our margins are very low. Like we don't, I am very comfortable with anybody pricing our steel out because we are very, we keep our margins slim enough that, that no one can come in and make us look silly. So it really, I feel like we've had an RTA. Stock Our Steel has operated like we're selling to the RTA since we opened because, we know we have all the Hendricks business. We know we have all the Roush's business. So if you call and order 20 feet of tube, I'm not going to charge you a lot more than if you ordered 200 foot of tube, which is most steel companies do. The more you order, the cheaper it is. Mm-hmm. So I don't do that. If I know you're buying your steel from me all year long, well, I give you the lowest price possible. I don't care if you buy a foot or you buy 1,000 feet. So, the RTA, I think what they're looking for is buying power, right? They're looking to come in and, and find, if we pool up and buy more. Just now, I want to try to help the RTA. I've talked to Rob Kaufman a lot. What can we do to make it, a better thing, but because of my business model, it doesn't really make sense. But I will tell you, anything that makes the team stronger, I'm happy about. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't think it's a secret when I say this, but I think the RTA was designed to get a bigger share of the TV money, right? I mean, they feel like they need to get their share. Mm-hmm. They feel like they should have a race team should be worth something, right? It should be a franchise. I feel like anyway. So kind of what they kind of did because, a poor race team, think about it, if you lose your sponsor, back when anyone could come to the racetrack, you had nothing, right? You have a 4-post that costs $7 million. Well, if you're not a race team, who else wants it, right? I mean, so there's things that made it so I feel like teams should have some security, not everyone can come show up in Daytona. And, a guy that's been racing for, 8 years and show up to Daytona and they have an engine failure and some guy that's never brought a car to a track ever comes up and takes your spot. That's not fair, right? So I think the RT is a good thing. I think, like I said, the stronger the teams, the better. People say, oh, it used to be, I remember when Daytona, when 60 cars would show up, they'd send 20 cars home. Now there's 40 cars show up and I'm fine with that because those 40 cars can pay their bills. Mm-hmm. The extra 20 that come up, they don't buy anything all year anyway, and they don't pay their bills. So I'm happy with stronger teams.
So, but now as the RTA gets together and they start thinking about where we can get rid of cost, fab shops on these race teams are really starting to shrink because they're going to a lot more composite body panels and stuff. So I know that
I hate composite body panels.
Second the motion.
I hate those things. So a lot of that changed already with stamped bodies. So, gone to the days when I used to sell so many 24 gauge DQ AK 4x8 sheets and guy would sit on that English wheel and make them up a fender and, with the sandbag and the hammer, then, English wheel and make a beautiful fender. And, those days are gone, right? So that evolved into manufacturer would stamp all their sides and door panels and, the hoods went to carbon fiber, the roofs went to carbon fiber. Deck lids that all happened. But what really hurt my business was when the manufacturer started stamping all the bodies. So we still sell the coils to the Toyotas and the Fords. Mm-hmm. So they buy coils from us now that we ship, straight up to Michigan, and those guys blank them out and then stamp them out to a fender. So then they bring the fenders down here. The fenders are delivered to the teams. So they no longer make those things out of English wheels. So they're all stamped. So we do have that business still. That's good. But the margins are terrible. It's basically just moving money. I'll sell a 40,000 pound coil to Toyota, and or whatever, a 20,000 pound coil, it costs, $40,000 and, I'll make zero money. I mean, it's not, it's just the margins are so low, but it's revenue. So I like it, but that's probably going to go away, right? But it already kind of went away because, again, teams used to buy hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sheets from me, and those I did make decent money on. Yeah. And that was the good old days. So, composite bodies, I don't, as a fan, I don't love them, to be honest with you. mean, I like metal. I like
The old
sparks.
twisted Sisters, where you had the nose over here to the left.
Yeah,
man,
man.
those were awesome.
Them dudes out there with the hammers banging out the metal, and now
the Roush roller where you literally jam a stick underneath a tire and tell them to drive forward and roll the fender out.
Right,
that's what it's all about.
Getting the saw out, cutting. I'm gonna miss those days, but it's okay, and more and more parts, right? I think one of the reasons why Hutchison Pagan and BSR were successful in big companies is there was a lot of commonality, right? So a lot of people, it was before the teams made everything themselves.
Yeah.
Now the teams make everything. The machine shops are amazing, right? So they make from a little bracket for a carburetor or a bracket for an alternator. They make everything in-house, which is great for the steel company. But it takes away from what used to be the performance parts company.
Yeah.
So now it's moving towards a little bit more commonality where, people are buying, instead of making all their brackets, they're buying them, and that'll help my performance parts business. It might hurt the steel company a little bit, but it'll help the performance parts.
Yeah, so as a whole, you're going to be okay, but some of the little parts here and there might...
Exactly right. I think commonality will help the performance parts business. But,
Does Furniture Row get anything from you?
Everything.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So you ship stuff all the way up?
They come pick it up. They're in town all the time.
Wow.
Oh, so
Yeah.
they throw it on
They
the
have
trucks.
a guy that just comes back and forth.
Yeah,
like,
back
that's
and
what
forth.
he does.
Yeah.
How insane
wild.
is that? Yeah.
That's a pretty big route.
Yeah, right. Now, I'm sure they got local suppliers on some stuff, but they buy. They're a big customer.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
It's just a testament to like how cool it is that they won a championship because they're just like,
Yeah.
nah, fuck y'all. We're gonna do our shit over in
Well,
Denver.
they're the anti NASCAR
Yeah,
model.
Like they don't
Right.
care.
Oh yeah, we're a single car team who dominates Gibbs,
Yeah.
who is
Right.
a behemoth in their own right.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs are sending spies over to the Furniture Row. Like,
What are you doing with our stuff?
You're right.
Making it better, no big deal.
You're right.
Yeah, because they're missing that two guys. This guy works here. This guy works there at the bar talking. Hey, like, hey man,
Right.
Can you
Right.
believe what we're doing? Like,
Yeah. Now, listen.
hey,
To
man.
be, I certainly don't want that to be the future. I don't want teams spreading all over because
Right.
there's one
Yeah.
place where
can
I can
handle
have
one
these
guy in
businesses,
Denver.
Yeah.
and that is in Mooresville.
There's one Hollywood. There can be one Charlotte.
Exactly right.
So switching over to your personal life, where did you do your MBA? Did you do that at Kansas as well?
Yeah, at Baker University. I went my undergrad at Kansas and my grad school. It's a private college outside of Baldwin, Kansas, small little town, and did it there.
I'm finishing mine up on May
Boy,
11th.
yeah, man.
UNC Charlotte, baby.
Boy, nice.
That's
nice.
gonna
I'm
be
on
a
the board
fun
over there,
celebration.
motorsports board at UNC
Nice.
Charlotte. Yeah,
That's been a pain in the ass. Like doing
It's-
night school and
hard,
traveling
right?
and stuff. It's
Dude,
brutal.
It's
you give
it's
up
hard
a lot
on your
of
time.
life.
You really do. It take you 2 years. How long?
I've taken one class at a time, so overall it's going to take 3.5.
Okay, yeah.
Because traveling with race teams from
yeah,
Thursday
man.
to Sunday, and then you're resetting your life on Monday, and then you have essentially Tuesday or Wednesday to do class.
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. So it's
Do you have study groups? Like you get together with groups because that's what really helped me in my MBAs. We had groups of people that would get together.
so it's been like a crux. So you kind of get that extra help outside of the normal class time, but at the same time you're never available because
Right.
you're always gone.
Yeah,
So
right.
Now working for an agency as opposed to a race team, I've got all that free time, but I'm finishing up. So it was
Yeah,
just the most
you're right.
difficult way to
Well,
do
I'm
it.
proud of you. Congratulations.
He's never
Appreciate
going to
it.
graduate.
What's that?
He's never going to graduate. It's an ongoing thing on the show.
No, we're walking May 11th.
Atta baby.
Yeah, we've been talking
diploma or
about that.
damn, we're walking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be the third time that he's. I'm down, man.
Now, May 12th may make the old Greg Fornelli pretty proud about how
Good.
rowdy
You
we're
go,
gonna get.
baby.
yeah.
That's right. You deserve it, man.
I'll be there for that.
You deserve it. That's awesome.
Put me on the paperless post.
That's awesome.
Invite.
Yeah,
That's
I'll be
awesome.
there.
Now, David, I think brought up something. You're like a caddy, a golf caddy, or you play golf?
No, play golf, man.
Well, you were a caddy for Jordan.
Yeah,
one point.
yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's what
caddied
he-
for Michael
Yeah,
Jordan during
that's what-
Pro Am. I've
was
caddied
that
for
like?
Denny a couple times. It's it's the first time I met Michael Jordan. We were playing golf. He's a big NASCAR fan and he loves Denny. And so we're playing golf and we go to a par 3. It's like the third hole, and I forget where we were. I think we're at Ballantyne Country Club. That's where we were. And George's like, closest to pin for $100 to everybody in the group. We're like, hell yeah, man. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in, right?
Not competitive at all.
No, he is so, and he gambles and drinks like you would not believe on the golf course. Jordan is the man. And so, of course, he
My
sticks
favorite
it,
type of person.
3 feet from the pin and kicks all of our ass. And so, I'm giving this $100 bill. I'm going, fucking A, I am giving Michael Jordan $100. Like, this is the best thing ever. I'm like,
lot of people
this
have.
is so cool. I'm like, here you go, Michael. I'm like, oh my God, I just gave Michael Jordan $100. Right about the 5th hole, I'm like, fuck you. you and your $100 Michael Jordan. Fuck you. Here's your $100. Yeah, the fun did not last long, but. Yeah, so, being in this industry, it has afforded me to meet some really cool people, right? Because there's a lot of fans of NASCAR, and through my 22 years, I've been blessed to be, really good friends with a lot of drivers. I hang around with, Denny's probably one of my best friends, and Michael Waltrip. Those two are my best buddies, pretty much, and Stenhouse. And
you play basketball with all those guys.
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
right?
we're in a basketball league. We're in a golf league. As a matter of fact, our second so we have this thing called the Golf Guys Tour, the GGT, and it's pretty cool. We've got a big Twitter and Instagram following, not because of me, of course, but because of those guys. So,
Maybe
the golf guys, there's 18 of us, and it's Kyle Larson, Ricky Stenhouse, Denny Hamlin, Michael Waltrip, Rick Allen, Phil Parsons. Who else? There's a number of drivers, TV personalities. And then, some like people like me who are in the industry, just not, directly in the industry. Yeah. And it's a really cool deal. So there's 18 of us. We play like eight games, 8 golf games for our season. And it's a season, you keep points every tournament. You win money and trophies per tournament. But it's all, boiling up, kind of like the FedEx Cup in PGA golf. Gotcha. It boils up to the last tournament of the year, where if you win that, you are the GG champion. And I came in second place last year. I had a very good tournament. But
does Cold Hard Art make your trophies?
Cold Hard Art makes all of my trophies. Yeah. Wow. They do. Don't they still? I mean,
well, they're definitely doing it for the Denny Hamlin race. Which
Chuck G has made a couple of trophies for me. I don't know if y'all know Chuck G out there. He's a local guy. He's amazing.
Chuck Garoffa, whatever.
Yeah, but Cold Hard Art.
Yeah. Didn't Hayes talk about him?
I think so.
But
he's the man. He is an amazing fabricator. His son's a little wheelman in go-karts, but Cold Hard Art's my boy. He makes a lot of good trophies for us. So yeah, the Golf Guys is amazing. We got our second tournament tomorrow. We're in the old farm in Bristol, Tennessee for our tournament tomorrow. So 18 of us will be rolling into that place and tearing it up. We get to play amazing golf courses with amazing people, and it's fun as could be, man.
And I was going to say the basketball thing that you guys do. Didn't you say that you had like a lung thing? Didn't you say?
Oh, that doesn't affect me, man.
Doesn't affect you at all?
No, my vertical's still about 3 inches. I can still get up. I mean, we
box out Mikey.
Yeah, that's all I really do is rebound, box out, and I'll shoot an occasional layup. So my shooting percentage is huge because I usually never shoot anywhere farther than 3 feet from the basket.
Yeah, there you go.
But we've got there's 7 teams.
The Dennis Rodman of the hoop
That's
group.
Exactly right. I said a mean pick. I'll knock some people down now.
Rebounds and picks.
Yeah, that's it. So we've got 7 teams. There's 6 guys on a team, so there's 42 of us. It's all NASCAR personalities again. Same deal. And, Denny Hamlin has a nice, ginormous, beautiful golf, indoor basketball court in his house right next to the bowling alley. And we have referees. It's a legit, serious deal. We have drafts, we have trades, we have refs, we have a lot of gambling.
Best part.
So that was our
Magic G win.
Yeah, we had our third game of the season on Monday night. So it's every Monday night. So my team is undefeated, and the team of an Austin Dillon's team is undefeated. So I was on Dawson Dillon's teams last year, and we won the championship. And I didn't get drafted on his team this year. So his team's 3-0, our team's 3-0, and we meet this next Monday.
Ooh,
2 undefeated teams. It's a showdown. You guys should come there and do like a remote or something because it's fun, man.
Please,
it's
a
awesome.
little play-by-play.
It is awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of Ricky Stenhouse is on. Ricky Stenhouse golfs with us too. So it's a really, really fun.
We have the ability to travel. We just did our first on location at Spencer Boyd's house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went over to his.
You guys should come, man. It's cool. I mean, it's fun. We should come. It's a pretty cool deal. I'd like
perfect.
it. You'd like it. It's
so
neat.
Before we get you out of here, the number one thing that I would say, would you call it pop culture? The old calendar.
I was gonna say
Oh,
you will
boy.
see multiple of those.
Yeah, so-
in like every
The
race.
stock car still calendar.
When you walk into a race shop, everybody's toolbox, all the guys in there will have one on the side. Old ones are on the wall.
Yeah.
Is the SRI calendar.
Except for 2011 or 2007 was my first calendar.
2006.
That's
the one that opened up with just
Yeah.
a straight bare
Yeah.
titties.
So I started them, I think, in like 2000, and I would just get a calendar off the internet with stock pictures, and just the bottom just said Stock Car Steel, right? And it was just
gotcha.
And then like 2006, I think was was in between wives. So I'm like, hey, I can make my own calendar. I I know a lot of girls that could be great at this. So we started doing it in-house, and the first calendar, was I think it was mostly strippers. You open up the front cover to January, and it was just two, beautiful titties, and they had steel bar nipple piercings, and it was like, got steel bar, steel bar.
It's got like a stock car steel sticker right in the middle, and she's just like holding a piece of steel tubing, and that's it. Like, I mean, that's art right there. Ladies
there
and
was
gentlemen, simplicity.
Pretty much, titties and naked asses, the whole calendar. And all the guys in the shops were like, dude, that calendar is great. But we can't put it in the shop and we can't bring it home. So he just basically stays in my car. I'm like, okay, I got you. Okay, calm down. All right, back it off. So from that, evolved into, a little bit more classy. It was still, pretty raw. And we had, one of our marketing girls' husband who, happened to own a camera. He did the photo shoots, never had a light or an umbrella or, nothing, right? And then, but, we had rowdy girls who would do anything. They put dirt all over them and jump up on the steel trucks, and it's evolved now. I got married a few years ago, and I've got some new kids, and so I call my wife. I love her to death, but she's the restrictor plate. So the restrictor plate came in life, so the calendars got a little more classy. Mm-hmm. As Jennifer would say, Greg, would you let Coach Gibbs see it? And that is
that's pretty solid standard.
That is the standard. So And I always say, listen, Coach Gibbs, we all know he's a conservative guy, but he's still a man, right? Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, Coach would understand.
Still look at the cheerleaders.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I bet he looked at the cheerleaders, right? So the calendar has evolved a lot, and the calendars, like, there's always just so many funny stories about the calendar.
There's like 10 from every year.
From every year, the stories are just like crazy.
This last year we had a power outage. We had to shoot the whole
car
thing in the
hit
dark.
The pole, the power pole, outside of Lakeside Park, and we lost all the power the day of the photo shoot.
Yeah, I remember that. My wife works over there.
Well, there you go.
Yep, I remember when that happened.
Let me tell one funny story, and it happened to be from 2017, but this is a pretty darn good one. So, as you can see for 2018, the cover's usually the girls huddled around the trucks. Well, 2017, what was it, raining or no, I know what happened. It was scheduled to be on the Sunday after the All-Star race was our photo shoot. So you got all these models. Usually there's 10 girls and photographers, and now it's professional. Like, it is professional now. And so they canceled the race on Saturday night, so they raced the race on Sunday. So so we had to change the photo shoot to Monday. So, which is a business day, has all kind of, but we had to get it done, right? Everything was scheduled. We had to get it done. So the photo shoot's on Monday. And all the girls are there. And like I said, the covers are always usually at the front of the building with our trucks. So as it got time, we're doing our shoots, as it got time for the cover shoot, we're setting up shop. So the photographer has his ladder set up across the street from my shop. The trucks are parked in front of my shop, and all the girls are kind of mingling around. Well, across the street from my shop is J Bear Daycare. And it happens to be 3:45
Monday
when the shooting starts, and this guy's ladder's on their front door, and here comes all the parents picking up their kids.
And Greg's like, looking great. Oh fuck, that's fucking fantastic. And not really paying attention. Neither was I. But then we kind of turned around.
And you've got 10 of these young hot in thong bikinis and spiked heels, trying to stop traffic. Wait right there, and so all these cars are rolling in, and the moms are like furious. The dads are like, their kids are walking the street. The dads are like, oh, their jaws are on the ground. They're looking at this going, whoa. And eventually, the owners said, get off of our property. We're calling the police. Like, we get it. So he moved in the street. We finished the photo shoot. But that was one of my favorite stories of 2017. But there's so many. I mean, there are so many stories. Like every one of us.
we had to change March this year because the legs were a little wide. I guess
March,
Denny's,
if you look at March, and I know we're on the radio here, so you can't really see, but most people that are probably listening have
we can probably post this on Instagram.
Yeah, all right, there you go.
I'll send you
this picture right here. If you look at this picture, there's a lovely girl sitting on a chair with a bunch of brake parts around her. And
excellent part incorporation, by the way.
Thank you very much. And her left leg is kicked out to the side, and her arms on it. Well, the picture that we picked for the calendar, her right knee was exactly like her left knee.
Got it.
Which was kicked out, and her arm was on this knee. So it was basically
no restrictor plate there.
Spread Right, yeah.
Spread eagle, yeah.
And to my credit, without my wife even seeing the draft, I said, Chase, this will not work. We cannot put this in the calendar. I know I've learned my lesson now. And it was a little, and Chase is like, you're right. He didn't even argue with me.
No,
Want me to
I
say,
didn't.
come on, Greg, but
I told him exactly this. I was just like, yeah, I sent that to you like 2 weeks ago. You said everything was gravy, and I was hoping that you would miss that, but eventually you caught it. I'm like, yeah, I know.
let's put it this
It's a
way.
little-
Coach Gibb would not have liked
No,
that picture.
it's a little.
He would not have liked
in
that
hindsight, but I mean, I was fighting for it at the time.
Yeah, it
but-
was a beautiful picture. But one of these girls in this year didn't speak English. She was pretty much
Oh,
just
she
all
was
Russian.
from Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
So if any of the listeners are listening and they don't have a race car but they want to buy the calendar, where's the easiest spot to go?
Well, we are like out of calendars because it's April. So,
Naturally.
but you just
hot
gotta buy
Chicago.
stuff. You just gotta buy stuff from us and be nice.
It's been it's
take care of
been
you.
It's a valuable
11
item.
years, 12 years now, and I don't think we've really sold any. I just give them away for free to my
And they're
customers.
available at all your businesses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not anymore. Again, it's April. But this thing
Well,
is
yeah, but
hot off the break. This is more anticipated in the motorsports world than really pretty much the Daytona
Yeah,
500.
like,
Where's the
yeah.
calendar? Where's the calendar? Where's the calendar?
Like, I know it as, like, it's like when the ice cream truck shows up.
right.
Like, the guy's like, hey, SRI calendar's
Right,
out. Like,
right.
everyone, like, there's no production
Yeah.
goes on for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And everyone flips through it and see what it's about.
Listen, if you ever don't get a calendar, if I ever don't make a calendar, there's a lot of trouble going on in the Fornelli house.
It's the best day of the year. It's the only day it's like, man, I get to work on it Sunday. This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
How many years have you been doing it?
Well, we've done in-house for 11 years. Well, I guess 12 now. 2006 was our first one that was done in-house. So 12 years.
Wait, this calendar. What year was it? You were the most famous man on the internet for that day.
Oh, the
Chase.
chive. He was on the
Yes.
chive.
You were front page.
That
of the
was like
Chive.
the,
Yeah,
the
dude.
2014 shoot. That was when. So I mean, I had a few adult beverages, and we were having a good old time. And it was when Snapchat was just becoming cool, and so therefore I wanted to send a Snapchat out to a bunch of people, and there's like all these girls lined up over at Nitro, and so I got a red Solo cup in my hand, and like I just do this goofy pose, and I take a selfie.
The greatest selfie.
And Wayne Hewitt from Hendrick Motorsports, shout out to Wayne if he listens to this. I'm sure he will at some point. He snapped the perfect photo and
of him taking a selfie.
and so, of course, I'm like, God, that's just the best photo. And I put it on as my Facebook profile picture. And some guy that I haven't talked to in high school for the longest time immediately gets on Reddit. And he's like, my buddy from high school seems to be having a good time at his job. And then, like, I get 7 text messages when I wake up the next morning. And, like, I thought somebody died. Like, I mean, like, when you get 7 text messages in the middle of the night, something bad has happened, you know?
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, holy crap, like, I'm on the front page of Reddit. I'm on the Chive. I'm on all these places. People are having Photoshop battles of putting me taking a selfie.
Daily afternoon randomness. It was
Yeah.
the DAR and
All
the
the
chive.
Photoshops.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got selfies with Obama. I'm standing next, that famous thing where in Vietnam where like some guy gets shot in the head. You know that famous video.
Oh, yeah.
Taking
Yeah.
a selfie
They
beside it.
put a selfie of me doing that.
Dark. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it got real dark. And but that was the best day ever. Like,
That was awesome.
I was actually on the front page of Reddit also.
oh,
Yeah.
Really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I got on the front page of Reddit. Random text message from a guy who's a photographer in the business. Says, hey, man, there's a video of you on the front page of Reddit. And this guy's never texted me before. So I'm like, all right, what's Reddit? And what video is it? And he's like, just sent me the link. And I get on there. And
I have a
it's-
feeling I know what this is.
And it's a video of that a guy took at Daytona of 2015. It would have had to have been. He was drunk. It was a fan.
Okay.
He got drunk, got into pit road somehow. All right. I was working at BK at the time.
Okay.
And he starts walking up and down pit road. He left all of his buddies, or his son is who ends up like posting it to Reddit. So he's walking down pit road and his phone's going to die, but he's got his charger with him. So he walks up to the hauler, and you know where the tire guy usually has their little setup on the end of the pit box?
Oh, yeah.
there's usually an outlet right there. He finds an outlet, plugs in his phone, lets it charge. He's wearing
Is this on pit road or in the garage?
This is during the Daytona 500. During the Daytona 500.
I have not been that bad off yet.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Yes.
can't say I've been that
During
bad
the
off.
Daytona 500.
Wow.
But he's sitting there, and it was BK. I didn't know who was involved.
Could have been a sponsor,
Didn't
right?
know. He had a white shirt on. He didn't appear drunk at all. So he lets his phone charge,
Hemingway
starts
type
it
drunk.
up, and starts texting everybody. Says, "Hey, I'm on pit road." They're like, "No, you're not." They're like, "Okay, take a video and prove it." So he takes a video, and it's me sitting on pit wall, watching the race cars go by, and I'm talking to somebody, and you see me look at him, and then I kind of like do like almost like a like a skeptical hippo. eye.
WTF,
Yeah, I'm
right?
like-
Yeah.
And then my buddy says something, and I instantly forget that he's standing there, and then the video ends. The whole title of it was "My Dad Drunk Stumbled onto Pit Road of the Daytona 500."
Nice.
And this is the video to prove it. So then I jumped on there, and I'm like, "Hey, that's me." And they're like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." So then I had to do the whole hold up the newspaper, and
You're right, yeah,
and get
that's
verified
awesome,
that it was
man.
me. And then I ended up doing an AMA and the whole deal. But that
awesome.
that was my Reddit fame.
That's
awesome.
So I've been
That's
on the cover of Reddit
Multiple
also.
Reddit fame people at the table.
I'm gonna be
Thanks, racing.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Thanks for exactly.
I'm gonna be Googling that because I vaguely remember
That's pretty cool.
some of those memes that they had.
Yeah, no, I've got the whole file. Like, I've got all of the Photoshop edits saved. It was one of the best days of my life for sure.
was pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right. So your social media for Instagram and Twitter of Stock Car Steel. It's at Stock Car. Okay, so this is Instagram at Stock Car Steel, at SRI Supplies, at SRI Performance, and then Twitter it's at Stock Car Steel, at SRI Supplies, at SRI Performance, and the SRI Indianapolis has a Twitter. So, do you have any social media stuff that you want to put out?
I think I'm at G Fornelli SCSA.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But Chase handles all that stuff and does a
Tag
great
the
job.
companies. Everybody gives kudos to Gray.
Yeah. So I love it, and I can't thank you guys enough. This has been really fun. Like, as everything in life, like, I got to go do this there, and I've had a blast. It's
Well,
awesome, and you guys
that's
are-
why we
Yeah.
Once you get over the hump, it's a
Right.
fun time.
we saw a need and we did it. Just,
cool,
just
man.
just like what you seen.
Yeah,
You
right.
saw
See a
need
niche and do it, man.
yeah,
Right.
and you did it.
That's cool. You guys, I mean, I've known David for a long time, and you guys are insiders, so people should listen. It's cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. Chase, what's your Twitter stuff?
Just all of those companies. That's exactly what it
okay.
is. Yeah, just
Okay.
tag them. You don't want to get my social media. account. It's bad.
It's usually
It's bad
pictures
news.
from like the 70s or something.
Yeah. I've got the retro living.
Yeah.
But yeah, just tag the companies.
All right, guys. Well,
Yeah.
again, thanks for coming on. You're
Young and Pruitt, awesome. Love it.
You're welcome back whenever you
Love
want.
it, man. We talked about getting one of my sales guys in here. He's a trip. He is a really interesting guy, and he's funny. He'd be great on here. So
Bring
we'll
him
try
on.
to do
We'll
that. Yeah.
bring Chad in.
Chad Elliott's funny. His
Yeah,
dad's a
he's
pretty
gonna be
famous
good.
guy, and he's got great stories. So.
Let's bring him on.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. You can find me, or you can find us, at Young and Pruitt on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at JackmanZach on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Tall Guy Turbo.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Right on.
Thanks, everyone.
Right on.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you guys.